This cannot be the end I fear. The high priest will receive my word soon enough and darken my door afterwards. When I am cowering in his shadow, I shall need a spark to light the black. Only a glimmer. Only if I am allowed it. A minuscule token of hope. It is the heavens that stole my resolve. It will be the heavens that return it. By the light of Azurius. Is this the answer to my plea? A glimmer of hope? Do we find salvation in the jaws of the God-bearer himself? Oh, Ursun, are your people our saviors? Or our end? And all this an Heimlichstagh. Dark times linger on the horizon, I fear, and the Empire must be prepared. Something evil approaches, and it arrives tomorrow.
So as we just heard, whatever this is all leading up to is actually being revealed tomorrow, so that is complete insanity. That being said, before we get too excited, we probably should go through this entire teaser and, analyze every word he says rather than the last couple. I mean, even though it's coming out tomorrow, we still want to know early as much as we possibly can leading up to it, and speculation is always fun. So just like the last 3 videos on these teasers, I'm going to go through every single thing I found in this teaser, what he says, the constellations that we see, and exactly what they mean. So let us go. So the first thing he says is, this cannot be the end, I fear. The high priest will receive my word soon enough and darken my door. Afterwards, when I am cowering in his shadow, I shall need a spark to light the black. Only a glimmer, only if I am allowed it. A minuscule token of hope. So the high priest is basically the living embodiment of God. This is the exact same thing as the faith leaders. So, the leader of the cult of Sigmar, which is, of course, Volkmar the Grim. He is a high priest, and probably the high priest that he is talking about here, if we are to believe that this is in the current Warhammer universe. Now, obviously, this is an extremely rare position to hold, and to say that this guy is coming personally to darken exactly your door, to talk to you personally, implies that there is something serious going on. Also, a fun fact, while I was having a look at what high priests actually are, another notable high priest is Boris Bokar, who is the former leader of the cult of Ursun and the ruler of KISLEV. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm sure nothing else KISLEV related will come up in this analysis. No, can't possibly be. Now, another thing that I noticed was a mage of this caliber cowering beneath someone's shadow that is filling his doorway implies that whatever he's going to tell him, he's afraid of the reaction that the leader of his faith, the high priest, will have to what he's telling him. He's going to tell him we are seeing all these constellations, and he's going to tell, obviously, the high priest what it means. He's not telling us what it means, but he's going to tell his boss what this means. And when he tells him, he's absolutely petrified of that. So whatever it is pretty serious indeed. So now, rather than denying exactly what he's seen, he is admitting it, and instead of searching for more evidence, because he knows that whatever is going to happen, he's now searching for a glimmer of hope. Something to tell him that, yes, this massive event is coming and it may be apocalyptic to the world, but there is also a hope. This also ties back into him being scared to tell the high priest what he has found. If he has some good news to go along with that, then it kind of sweetens the terrible apocalyptic news. So he is both less scared of the apocalypse and less scared of his boss shouting at him, which, fair enough. The next thing he says is, it is the heavens that stole my resolve, it will be the heavens that return it. By the light of Azurius, is this the answer to my plea, a glimmer of hope? Do we find salvation in the jaws of the God-bear himself, Ursun? Are your people our saviors, or our end? So going from the start of this to the end, he's looking to the same space that took away his hope and took away his resolve, and he's looking to the same space to get it back. So again, he's just looking into the skies, finding these constellations that have told him this horrible thing is coming, and he's now looking to them for some hope to go with the absolute cataclysm. Now, the light of Osiris is the blue haze that we see him looking through, and it's what these types of mages look through to determine the future. So whatever he's showing him, there's a pretty good chance that whatever it is going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. Now, the God-bear Ursun, as I mentioned just moments ago, it's kind of what the cult of Ursun is based around, and the former leader of the cult of Ursun is Boris Bokar, as I mentioned earlier, and he is the ruler of KISLEV. Ursun himself is depicted as either a giant bear with golden teeth, claws, and sometimes a crown, or as a burly man with grey hair, a loincloth, and a spear. So either one of those, I'd honestly be happy to see, because if we get the bear, then that's an incredibly badass bear that we've seen with the KISLEV faction, because let's be honest, if this isn't telling us that we're going to get a KISLEV faction, either in Warhammer 2 or Warhammer 3, which is what I'm hoping, then I don't know what is. I don't know what else. What other evidence I can show you that we are definitely going to see KISLEV in whatever this is. Just if we saw the embodiment of Ursun in this giant bear, that'd be, bears in battle, which is what we've been hoping for ever since we saw that badass bear cavalry. Which reminds me, if we get a giant bear in battle, chances are we're probably going to get bear cav, so that's insanely exciting. Whereas if we get a burly man in a loincloth and a spear, that'll be hilarious. And also a guy that wears that little armor, you know that they are compensating by wearing that little armor, that guy is a badass and can do a lot of things. If someone is wearing a bunch of armor, it's because they're kind of weak in the mortal form. But if they're wearing no armor, oh boy, you are screwed. Now notice how he says he doesn't actually know if the people of Ursun are going to be the saviors or the end of us all. So it could be looking at some sort of KISLEV campaign mechanic where you can either choose to assist the Empire and take out the Chaos Invasion, or you can choose to go against the Empire, hold off the Chaos Invasion, but also you are invading the Empire because you need their lands to survive. You maybe retreat into their lands to escape the Chaos instead of fighting it and helping the Empire. But either way, it's looking like we're going to see a nice bit of grey morality in this KISLEV campaign, which, you know, I love grey morality, I say this all the time. That should be fantastic. As we all know, KISLEV have a semi-decent relationship with the Empire, at least as far as Warhammer 2 diplomacy goes. They're always kind of friends with them, but they kind of hold off reaching out and becoming actual allies. They just kind of don't go to war with each other, and that's about it. Now, another thing that we could get from not knowing whether KISLEV is the savior or the doom is that we could get in an Empire faction at launch. I really don't believe that this would be the case. If this is Warhammer 3, I don't think they would make a starting faction the same as a starting faction from another game. I think it'd just be too complicated when they eventually merge it into Mortal Empires 3, which they have confirmed that they are going to do when they made Mortal Empires 1 or 2, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't think that we're going to see the Empire as a playable faction on launch. Probably more so just an allied faction with KISLEV or an enemy faction with KISLEV, depending which leader or which choice you choose to go for. Because remember, with Warhammer 2 on launch, we got 4 factions, but 2 leaders for each faction. So you could have a leader for each faction that have completely different objectives, either assisting the Empire or destroying it. Next he says, haha, all this on Heimlichstagh Eve. Apologies for my horrendous pronunciation, no doubt. Dark times linger on the horizon, I fear, and the Empire must be prepared. Something evil approaches, and it arrives tomorrow. Now, as much as I want to go straight to talking about, you know, those last 3 or 4 words, we're going to go through this line by line. So let's start with Heimlichstagh. So this is the day when the twin moons are both fully visible in the sky. It only happens once a year, and apparently it falls on a random day every single year, which is kind of interesting. But the main thing you want to know about this is that it is the day of the year when the line between the realms becomes blurred. That means that demons from the Chaos realm can more easily enter the mortal realm, and if that's true, then we are definitely, most definitely looking at a very powerful Chaos invasion, most likely playable Chaos invasion in whatever content this is. If it's KISLEV versus Chaos, then that's incredible. You know, if it's Warhammer 3, then we are almost certainly going to see a bunch of Chaos factions playable from the very launch, whenever that may be, which is what I'm hoping for. Come on, man. All of this just reinforces exactly what I've been hoping for this entire time, and I could not be more hyped. Now, it is actually said that on Heimlichstagh Day, the rifts between worlds open. So normally there are, you know, there are always rifts between worlds. Look at the Chaos Wastes. It's just how they are the small rifts. But these small rifts become big rifts, and the big rifts become gargantuan, and whole armies can just walk straight between the realms. But it's only for a single night. Once that night is over, everything goes back to relative normality. Obviously, because we know this is a turn-based game, I can't imagine that it's just going to be, you know, set in one night or whatever. I imagine that the rifts are going to open and they're going to stay open for the purposes of the story. Now, this is bloody terrifying because, as we all know, the Chaos Invasion that is currently in the game in Mortal Empires can be quite hefty if you turn the settings on correctly and if you have a couple of mods. But even in the vanilla game, the Chaos Invasion can be quite a lot. So if that is only from a normal size rift, imagine what it's going to be like with a giant size rift. That is going to be the entire map being overrun by chaos. Can you imagine anything more beautiful? Now, many factions, I wouldn't say celebrate Heimlichstagh Day, but they do perform certain rituals. Now, one of those factions is actually the Ogre Kingdoms, who are also part of this day, and they spend it sacrificing giant cauldrons of meat to the Great Maw in hopes of appeasing it and protecting themselves. Now, him saying that the Empire must be prepared is kind of insinuating that the Empire are going to be a part of the starting lineup. But again, I don't believe they're going to be a playable faction. I just don't think it'd make sense. Even a sub-faction of the Empire, they might be a day 1 DLC of an extra Empire faction, but personally, I don't think they'll be one of the main, hopefully 4 factions that we see on launch, which has been the standard for the past 2 games. So yes, I definitely think it's more likely they'll either be day 1 DLC or just on the map in some capacity, even if they aren't playable yet. And obviously, the final thing that he says is we are getting something tomorrow. Now, I don't think this will be game launch tomorrow. That'd be far too early. You know, they won't just drop 4 teasers and then just dunk the game on us. They definitely want to build up some hype for this. So I'm definitely holding out hope for summer of this year. My hope is if this is Warhammer 3, then we will definitely be seeing it in the early holiday season of this year, which means, you know, kind of Septemberish time. I think that's about when Warhammer 2 released, so it would definitely make sense that that's when Warhammer 3 also releases, especially if the trailer comes out about now, because that is around about the same gap between the Warhammer 2 announced trailer and the Warhammer 2 launch. But if it was game launch, I would be incredibly overjoyed. I think it'd be an absolute power play by CA, just going, yeah, what's that? The biggest game launch that we've had of the past couple of years? Oh yeah, we're just gonna drop 4 teasers and then, you know, it's gonna come out. But again, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think it's more likely that we're going to get something other than a teaser, you know, maybe a full animated trailer, maybe a cinematic, maybe just a big live stream with a load of information. You know, CA really does like to do that, do some teasers and then do a live stream showing us what everything is all about and then dropping a trailer after that. But again, we'll just have to wait and see till tomorrow. But you best believe that whatever it is, it will be covered right here on the channel. So, you know, if you do want to catch that, then be sure to subscribe, click the bell so that you don't miss that, because this is a very, very, very exciting time to be a Total War Warhammer player. I can't wait. But I believe that wraps up just about everything I could find in this teaser. Again, if you have found anything that I missed, then definitely be sure to leave in the comments below. Also, if you want to join the Discord, which is linked in the description, we have a specific channel that is just for discussing these teasers and analyzing them, so feel free to put your theories in there. I love discussing it and watching everybody discuss it. It's a really great time to discuss with other players. It's just so hype and no theories are scoffed at. You know, pop them in there and we will be happy to discuss them. Yes, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then definitely be sure to leave a like. I would appreciate that oh so very much. And as I mentioned, if you want to see any more of this content that is in analyzing all these trailers or any content to do with Total War or strategy games in general, then be sure to subscribe to this channel. You know, I would really, really, really appreciate that and love you oh so very much. But yes, for now, I believe that wraps up everything. So I have been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn. I'll see you tomorrow.